In the floor slides, what we're looking for is external rotation of the shoulders, trying to make sure that we maintain a nice flat lumbar spine so that the lower back stays in contact with the floor. We slide the arms up above the head, trying to keep the arms as close as possible to the ground. A lot of people will find this quite tricky to do. With the rock back with thoracic rotation, we sit back onto the heels, we untuck the toes. This stops the lower back from going into any aggressive extension, and then from there we're looking to create rotation in the upper back only, reaching through at the elbow and then a nice rotation on the way up. Make sure you track the rotation with the eye line looking up towards the elbow as you get to the top. With the T-spine mobility drill, what we're looking for is lengthening of the lats. So we try to keep the toes tucked under. We sit back towards the heels. Make sure your abs stay nice and tight so that the extension doesn't start to shift into the lower back. And what we look for then is that the elbows are going to be out in front of you. We're pushing the chest down towards the floor, trying to make sure the extension is coming from the upper back rather than the lower back. Try to keep a nice neutral neck as well. In the child's pose, what we're looking for again is untucked toes, sitting back out onto the heels with the arms out in front. Really push the floor away from you on these ones to try and drive a good upward rotation of the shoulder blades and try and keep that neck nice and neutral. Don't let the face lead the exercise. In the cat-camel, what we're trying to set up with is hands underneath shoulders and knees underneath hips, and then we're looking for a nice universal flexion and extension of the spine. Make sure that it's revolving around the pelvis rather than just taking the range from the upper back only. Try to also ensure that the transitions between the two positions are nice and smooth and there's no jerky actions, especially as we approach the end range of it. Our knee hug to single leg stiff leg deadlift is our first hip mobility drill. What we're looking for with the knee hug is to make sure that when we pull that knee in tight, we don't bend the opposite leg, the standing leg. We stand up as tall as possible as if we're getting pulled up by the head. And then with the same leg, we reach back into the movement, just softening the knee then on the standing leg to make sure it's very much the hamstring taking the load. With the stiff leg, try to make sure that we don't roll the hips high or cross over our midline with that leg going back. Our rock back adductor stretch involves starting in an all fours position and then from there putting one leg out to the side nice and straight and gradually easing forward and backward to get a good stretch in the groin or adductor of that straightened leg. Key points in the half-kneel hip flexor stretch are to make sure that the knee on the ground stays slightly behind the hip. We tuck the tail to make sure the pelvis stays neutral and squeeze the backside to push that hip forward. With the couch stretch, it's like a slightly more advanced version of your half-kneel hip flexor stretch. It adds in a little bit more stretch to the quad. Start in a bent over position and go up to your shape then once you get a little bit more comfortable with it, getting the heel towards the backside. Try to make sure we still squeeze the glute on that stretch leg to try and extend the hip. So we're trying to lengthen out the quad over both joints, the hip and the knee. Can be quite an intensive stretch, so proceed with caution.